Art of Desire, the first of 5 lessons. Physical desire, the very base of evolution, the very basis of life, yea, the very bedrock of truth, all the way down to the very rock bottom of metaphorical hell, or so called Sheol, where many often find themselves emotionally beset below, to the loftiest of heights of so called heaven and ecstasy now and then, is very basically laid, packed, and paved by way of desire, verily, in mind, body, and spirit. No less equally, both of the earth or material plane and spiritual in nature, desire operates within every domain, upon all realms of existence, and are spheres of influence one finds himself in, from here to eternity and back again, where it is mindfully directed by whichever motivating force is prevailing within thee, and its origin stems specifically and precisely from one's level of mental ability, acuity, and facilities, directly through the power of will itself, that is. Remember, creation is unconditionally biased and always responds in the affirmative, as in yes or okay. Mind you, one's very will is constantly the directing force for good or ill, pure and simple, while thy desire is that which drives and propels our physical and spiritual selves towards those situations and or impositions one finds themselves in, or led to, or drawn into again and again, ad nauseum. See? In fact, that which one hath become, who one is, and whom you shall indubitably be, mentally, physically, and spiritually, has been, is being, and will be summarily built and or shorn through thy desire alone. It's a given. That goes without saying. Now then, in addressing physical desire specifically, biologically speaking, of course, we begin and end vis-a-vis 3 primary urges, aka our most basic instincts, those being propagation, self-preservation, and an insatiable thirst and hunger. Yea, the very definition of an animal, albeit we are sane and sentient, ideally, right? And yet that's debatable too. When one acts upon and uses these instincts or urges for self exaltation, aggrandizement, or any selfish thoughts and deeds rendered or wrought for that same matter, the operative phase or phrase being by force of will, so to most primitively speak, those desires then become materialistic impulses, leaving one vulnerably open to and prone to carnal influences and much darker implications for sure. Sadly, merely for some short term gain as the sorry trade off of a sob story. And such is the nature of afflictions, addictions, and accostings of every kind, wherein so willfully doing or undertaking belittles, defiles, squelches, and yes, starves the very soul body and drains thy temple beautiful of spiritual vitality, exponentially more so when negatively bent, and that's for show. The underlying foundation or support system in otherwise fond favor of the argument for idea or process of desire at its most fundamental core is to contribute to, encourage, uh, and gather together those very forces which make cause and or form the very means by which we all may still revel in the joys and pleasures of that fun side of our animal nature too, without hurting anyone. But if one allows self to be governed possessed and or swayed by these, then, well, there is no other source of help, no matter the situation, other than through the mercy and power of Spirit itself. Yes, transgressions are just that serious and harmful. Whether worst case scenario up to the so-called gray lie, we are one and all divinely endowed spiritual creatures with many abilities and capabilities. Go figure. Being the creative beings we are in the flesh, created as companions in, of, and with creation itself, for the sole purpose of becoming aware of self, no less, nor more, ironically enough, desires, which are not spiritual in nature or intent, hamper and hinder growth and development, and hence an understanding of the oneness of every living thing, not to mention consciousness itself. Alas, if one lets their primitive lizard brain get the best of them, as in allow one's amygdala to override your higher executive order functions, one ultimately loses impulse control and gains only further compunction to act or misbehave thusly, especially if left unchecked, like an animal gone rabid or wild. Whereas if one spiritualizes their innate power of will to create, instead of destroy or denigrate in light of same inclinations, is when one becomes as a so-called god or goddess, as a divine in mind, body, and spirit, and soul too. I.e., whereas with selfishness, there can neither be peace nor harmony, but rather only difficulty, discord, and or worse, carrying greater repercussions and bigger responsibilities to deal with still. So be discerning above all else and choose to decide most wisely.